All right, so we will be beginning today's class on Dotloop.com. So if you want to follow along with me, just make sure to pull up your Dotloop account. And of course, as you probably know, your Dotloop account can be pulled up from your MyKW homepage. All right, and you can also go to Dotloop.com directly to view your account. Now, while you're pulling up that account, I just want to kind of go over kind of what Dotloop is. So Dotloop is going to be your online filing cabinet. So you're going to have a loop per property that you sell. So for example, if you are representing a client who is selling their home with you and then buying the next home, that's going to be two different loops because it's two different properties. Okay, so that's how Dotloop works best. So you're going to be able to store all of your paperwork right in your Dotloop account. So the first thing that I want to go over is actually on the top right of your Dotloop account. So if you could go up to the top right where you see your templates. Okay, and what your templates are, okay, that's that icon that looks like two sheets of paper on the top right black toolbar. And if you ever forget which icon it is, you'll notice that if I just hover my mouse over it, it'll go over to the templates, or it'll pop up letting you know that's the template section right away. So let's go ahead and click on where it says templates. All right, so this is a very important part of your Dotloop account. Now, if you scroll through your templates account here, scroll through your templates section, you'll notice that your screen looks a little different than mine, and that's totally fine. So this will look different depending on which market center that you're with, because your market center staff loads all of these forms in there for you. Okay. So if you scroll down, you'll notice a bunch of different red form sets on the left-hand side. So these are your folders that are going to hold all of the forms that you could possibly need for your transaction. All right, so Dotloop can be used in a couple different capacities. Now, if you or your client does not feel that comfortable with technology, okay, maybe they don't feel comfortable with electronically signing, that's fine. We hear that all the time. And you can simply come in here and print off blank forms to hand fill in and have your client sign. So let's go over how you would do that. All right, so again, where we are is in the template section on the top right of your Dotloop account. And then scrolling down here, select whichever form set you want on the left side in red. All right, from here, if you scroll back to the top, you'll see a search bar, a red search bar display that you can click on. And you can search for whatever form you're looking for. So let's say a listing agreement, for example. All right, you can type in the word listing, and it will bring up all forms with the name listing in its title. Okay, so you can look through that very quickly. So once you find the form that you're looking for, you'll come over to these three drop-down dots on the far right. All right, anytime you see these three drop-down dots throughout Dotloop, or really most software, anywhere you are online, all right, these three dots mean more options. So if I were to click on those three dots, I could click download right here, and that will pull the form outside of Dotloop and pull it up on your computer as a PDF. So you can then save it to your computer, or you can simply print it out and start hand filling in your document. Okay. So that is a way you can print out any blank docs you want right out of your Dotloop account. Now, of course, the main idea, the main concept of Dotloop is to be able to type up your forms and have them electronically signed. Okay, so let's take a look at how to do that more specifically. So if you could scroll up to the very top of your screen, let's click on the icon that looks like a smiley face with no eyes on your top black toolbar there. Okay, and if you hover your mouse over it, it tells you it's the loops icon. So that'll bring you back to your loop homepage. Okay. All right, so you can always click on the smiley face with no eyes to get back to your loop homepage to view all of your loops. But before we proceed with all of your loops, let's go ahead and hover your mouse over either your headshot on the top right or your initials. Now, a couple things that I want to point out here. are, first of all, your member ID right here. Please make a note of how to access that member ID, maybe even write it down. If you call Dotloop support directly, they'll prompt you for this member ID right here. All right, and if you put in that member ID, since you're a premier member with Keller Williams, it'll put you to the very front of the support line. So it cuts the waiting time in half easily. All right, and let's just check over a few things while we're in here. Let's go ahead and click on this My Account option right here to take you into the back end information of your Dotloop account. So again, I'm hovering over your headshot or your initials on the top right of your Dotloop account, and let's go to My Account. All right, so just a couple things I want to point out here. Okay, do make sure that your headshot is put in here. All right, it's really important for your clients. They're going to be signing legal documents, and they're going to feel a lot better if they see a familiar face in their Dotloop account so they know that they're signing legitimate forms. Okay, so do take a moment to go ahead and add your headshot if it's not already here. All right, and let's double check our information in the back end here. So you'll notice the e-sign name and e-sign initials. So that's what will display whenever you sign a form automatically in your Dotloop account. So if you want to add your middle name or maybe just a middle initial here, you can go ahead and edit that right here. All right, let's also make sure that your fax number and phone number are entered in. Okay, because the cool part of this back end right here, what all of this does with the company name, and as we scroll down to see the address, all of this information auto-populates onto any form that you bring into your loop. So for example, let's go ahead and scroll down to find the address section at the bottom of your page here. All right, let's go ahead and make sure that your office address is entered in. Because again, what will happen is it'll automatically put your office address onto every single form that you bring in that requires that information so that you don't have to keep typing it in every time, okay? So our goal is to work smarter, not harder. All right, so again, make sure we put in our address, city, state, and zip. And once you're done with that, you can go ahead and click Save on the bottom right of your screen. And if you need more time to do this, guys, just make a note on where to come back and fill in this information. And let's scroll up to the very top of your account. All right, guys, so now let's use that loop icon again on the top right of your account to get back to all of your loops. So we can start rocking and rolling on creating a loop and practicing our Dotloop tips, tricks, and time savers. All right, so I clicked on the smiley face with no eyes to get on back to your Dotloop homepage. Okay, and I want to point out a couple things while I'm here. All right, first of all, the loop view. Okay, so you'll notice right now I have a grid view. Okay, if your loop homepage looks a little different, no worries. I'll show you how to toggle back and forth your loop homepages. So this view right here will show all of your loops in circles on your loop homepage. Now another way that you can view your loops is on the top right, directly under the black toolbar, you'll see a red circle that has 3 horizontal lines. So if you go ahead and click on that, it'll take you into the list view of your Dotloop homepage. I personally like this view better just because I have the search bar right here at the top, so I can quickly search for any loop that I'm looking for. Okay, this is particularly helpful if or when you have a bunch of loops going on and you've sold many, many properties. Okay, you're going to start having a lot of loops in your account and you want to be able to search through them quickly. All right, if you do not have this icon, this red circle icon, no worries, there's nothing wrong with your account. This icon only displays after you've at least created one loop in your account. So if you haven't done that yet, that's why it's not displaying. So for the sake of keeping a class consistent so you can follow along, I'm going to switch to the other view, the grid view. But if you would like to maintain this view, I just want to point out that you can click Create a Loop right here to get going on your loop. All right, so I'm going to switch back over to the grid view here. And while I'm here, okay, one of the biggest questions that we get are agents contact and they can't find their loop. They feel like their loop has disappeared, okay? And you can imagine how that would be stressful. Right? Actually, Dotloop, you cannot delete anything. You can't delete a loop, you cannot delete a form, so don't worry, it's always there. Okay, the solution to that, if you ever lose a loop, and do make a note of this because it happens to everyone, all right, you'll notice there's a filter option right below the black toolbar. Okay, so if I were to click on filter here, it would pull up all the possible statuses that I could have for my loop, which I'll show you shortly here, how to alter that. But if you're ever to lose a loop, all you need to do is click Filter, right under the black toolbar, then click Clear All on the right-hand side of your screen, and click this big red filter button again, and that will pull up all of your loops. So that is a very handy thing to know. Okay, let's get started on your loop. So depending on what view you're on, let's go ahead and click on this big plus sign right here to get going on your loop. All right, so I'm clicking that big plus sign and that allows me to create a loop. So if at all possible, we want to name the loop by the property address. Okay, so if you want to go ahead and put in 123 Main Street or your personal address or 222 Dotloop Rocks Drive, okay, do try and put in the property address if at all possible. Now I know if you're representing a buyer client, you won't know the property address quite yet, and that's totally fine. I'll show you how you can change the loop name once we get going in our loop. Now another really handy tool I want to point out while we're here is this where it says selected template. Now this may look different for each person, okay, because this is specific to your market center, but do keep an eye on the select template section. If your market center has set up loop templates, you would be able to select one of these options and it would pull in a lot of the preliminary documents you'd need to get going on your loop, okay. If you don't see anything on this from the select templates, no worries. We're not going to use that in today's class, but I just did want to point your direction there. And in the meantime, let's go ahead and click Create Loop on the bottom right to finish setting up our loop. All right, and that'll pull you into your loop where we can start editing things. Now, as I discussed in the Dotloop 101 class, there are three main sections I just want to point out that you're going to be working in. All right, this top document section right here, so this is where you'll be spending most of your time in your loop. Okay? This is where you'll be editing documents, sharing it to your clients to sign, and viewing those documents right here in this top section. If you scroll down, you'll find the people section as well. So scroll down near the bottom of your loop and you'll see the people section. Right? So this is where you'll be able to view all people that are involved in this transaction, whether it be your clients, the mortgage provider, the other agent. Okay, so everyone involved in the transaction can always be viewed in the people section. And the third main section is this task section at the very bottom of your screen. Now this task section is pretty cool. You can use this to set up to-do lists for yourself. So if saying this is a listing, you could create a to-do list that said things like put the sign in the yard, add to the MLS, get professional photos taken, have the property measured. So you can create a listing, to-do list on the very bottom here, so that you can check off each of those tasks to make sure that you've done them. Now this task section is used by many market centers as well, to check off to make sure that you have all the forms that you need to be in compliance. Okay, so keep an eye on the bottom of your loop for any forms that you might be missing. And again, that just depends on your market center if that's how they set things up. Okay, so another big question that we get all the time is, okay, I started my loop, now what? What's the first thing I should be doing once I create a loop? And to answer that, if you could scroll to the very top of this loop and click on View Details right under the property address. All right, so I'm clicking on View Details in red right under the property address or the loop name at the top of your screen. All right, and now what this section does, what the details do of your loop, and let's scroll around and take a look at it. So scroll on down. What it does is it auto-populates any information that you put in this details section onto every single document you bring into your loop. Okay, so it's really helpful to come in here and enter in some of the information one time so you don't have to keep typing it in on every form. So let's start at the top of your screen and we'll work our way down, and I'm just going to point out some key factors that you want to make sure you're doing every time. All right, first of all, starting at the top, okay, if you're not seeing what I'm seeing, make sure you click View Details at the top of your loop under the property address. All right, so working my way down, you'll notice an option to upload a photo. Now, if I were to click on there, it would start browsing my computer, and I could click on a photo that I have of this property. Okay, Dotloop says that if you take the time to add in a photo here at the top of your loop for your clients to see, that client is 5 times more likely to refer you out or use you again just by adding in a photo of their listing. Okay, you can add a photo that maybe you got professionally taken or that you took of the listing, right? If it's a buyer, you can even grab that from the MLS. Right, but it is worth your time to come in here and add that photo because they feel like you created a personalized website for them to sign their documents. All right, I'm working my way down this transaction type. Let's go ahead and change that to listing for sale. So for today's class, we're going to be working through a listing. And the loop status here, let's change that to an active listing. All right. Now I did mention when we were creating a loop that you want to name it the property address. You want to name your loop the property address if at all possible. If you create your loop prior to knowing the property address, no big deal. You'll notice right here you can easily change the loop name. You can click to edit that here or simply click on this dot to put in the property address. Okay, and let's scroll down now slightly to this people section. So the first thing you'll want to do when creating a new loop is add your clients to the loop. So in this people section here, you'll notice you have yourself and the admin of your market center. You will always see yourself and the admin, okay? Now we want to be able to add our clients. So to do that, we'll simply click Add Person at the top right. All right, let's go ahead and do this so we have some clients to practice with. All right, so let's put in a full name. So you'll need to put in 3 main things when you set up a person in your loop. You'll need their first and last name, email address, and their role. Okay, so if you want to go ahead and put in John Smith, or your spouse's names or kids' names just to practice along. Okay, they will need an email address to electronically sign. And a question that we get all the time as well is, I am representing a husband and wife and they have one email address. Unfortunately, the husband and the wife have to have separate email addresses to be able to electronically sign. There's no way around that, unfortunately. Right, that's how the system identifies them as 2 different people. So if you run into that situation, right, one of the parties can easily just make a free Gmail account to be able to electronically sign. Or of course, you can bring the form to them to hand sign if worse comes to worse. All right, so we need a first and last name, email address. All right, feel free to put in your personal email address here so you can see what it looks like when your clients receive forms. And lastly, you'll need to put in the role. Okay, every time, do make sure you come in here and assign the role. I will tell you in just a little bit why that's so important. All right, I do want you to make a note here to this add to my team checkbox right here. Please note to never, ever, ever click that checkbox if this is a client that you're adding in. If you click add to my team, this checkbox right here, it will allow your client to see every single thing in your loop that you can see. And of course, you don't want that. Right? The general concept of Dotloop is everything is private in your loop until you share that form, for example. So make sure, again, not to click add to my team if this is a client. The times you would actually use that feature is if you're working with another agent in your office, for example, on the same side of the transaction. Okay? So if you're co-broking a listing and you want to be able to both work on the documentation and share sending it to the clients, if you click this add to my team, it would make this loop display in the other agent's account too. Right? So again, I know that was quite the rant, but moral of the story is make sure not to click add to my team for your clients. All right, and let's go ahead and click add person on the bottom right. All right, you will now see your client has been added, their email address, and their role. Okay, the role is very important. You'll see why in just a little bit. And now let's make sure that under your name, let's change none to the listing agent. So where it says none under your name, let's go ahead and change that to listing agent. All right, so your people are now set up. So the final thing I want to do in this view details section is fill in the property address, okay, just for today's class. Again, just a reminder, what this section does is it auto-populates any information you enter in here onto every form that you bring in. Okay, so let's go ahead and add that in so you can see what that looks like. So go ahead and add in the street number and the street name are two different fields, just a heads up. Gets people every time. All right. And if you've done that, feel free to kind of scroll down and look around at the other information that you can go ahead and type in. Right? If you are a new agent, this section is particularly useful for you. Okay, the forms are a little overwhelming to know exactly where to put which information. Okay, so if you come in here and take the time to enter in the information about the property in this view details section, Dotloop knows where each one of these fields go on the form, and it does the work for you. Okay, so you don't need to be searching around the form to try and figure out where the financial information goes, for example. Okay, Dotloop will take care of that. Now, if you could scroll up to the very top of your screen and just make sure to click Save on this top red toolbar. Okay. Anytime something is saved in Dotloop, it comes across a yellow bar at the top that says Save Successful. So you can always double check on that. All right, so I click Save on this top red toolbar, and now I'm going to click Back to Loop on the top left-hand side. So I clicked Back to Loop on the top left-hand side to get back to your main loop page here. All right, so let's start in this Documents section. You'll notice there are three main ways to add documents to this loop here. Okay, so you can read underneath what each one says, and I'm going to show you what this looks like. So let's go ahead and practice with bringing in the templates here. Okay, so you'll notice this icon here in the templates looks exactly like the templates we started class in on the top right, right? So those are all of your forms. So if we click on that templates, okay, that blue box that says templates in it, all right, if you do not see these three blue boxes, guys, just make sure you click Add Document in line with the folder name. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click Templates here. And you'll notice it pulls up all the forms that you have access to with all of those red form sets on the left-hand side that we started class with. So go ahead and look through those. And let's pull in a listing agreement. So you can, again, on the left-hand side, click whichever form set that pertains to the listing. And use the search bar at the top to search by either the form name or the form number. So in this case, I'm just going to type in listing. And again, this looks slightly different depending on your market center. I'm working on North Carolina forms here. Okay, so to pull in any of these documents, I'm simply going to click the checkbox to the left of the form name to pull that in. And click Copy on the bottom of your screen. All right, one of one imported. So I know I'm good to go on that. So if I X out of that box, I can now see the exclusive right to sell listing agreement is right in my loop. Okay. So what I want you to do now is let's go ahead and click on this document to just start editing it. So simply click on the document to pull that open. And you'll notice the first thing that you see is this autofill box. So if you are seeing this autofill box on your screen, great. That's what it's supposed to be, so if you could stay right there. All right, if you are not seeing this autofill box, or if you accidentally X'd out of it or clicked on the side and it went away, no worries, guys. You can always click autofill on this top black toolbar to bring that right back up. All right, so from this autofill box, you'll notice Seller 1. I already have my client, Tony Stark, for any Iron Man fans. Okay, so you do want to, now this is what going back to when we're adding our clients to the people section, right? I labeled my client as the seller, so now Dotloop knows to automatically match my client with all the seller fields. All the fields that the seller is supposed to sign, they're now going to be able to because we see Seller 1. This is the most important part of your clients being able to electronically sign is seeing their name next to Seller 1. Now, if you don't see their name, no big deal at all. So let's say, for example, I forgot to add the wife to this transaction or the other party. I can simply click on Select Person right here and either select that client's name from this drop-down or click Add Person on the bottom of this drop-down to start adding their name right away. Okay, so you can do that right here. And you'll notice listing agent should have your first and last name in it. Okay, again, if it doesn't, no biggie, just go ahead and click on that and click on yourself from that drop down. All right, so if we scroll on down, again, all of this information filled in here will autofill onto your form, so it is a really handy tool. But for now, let's go ahead and scroll to the very bottom and click autofill on the bottom right of this autofill form. All right, you will now notice that some of the fields on your form are yellow. Okay, these yellow fields means that that this has been autofilled. Okay, so that's a good thing. We want it to be autofilled here. And you'll notice a note on the right side that says 2 roles have been assigned, 12 fields have been autofilled. Okay, so if I scroll down to the bottom of page 1 or anywhere that you see a signature field, okay, it's very important that you see their initials or their name written out anywhere they're supposed to sign. So you'll notice in this first field, it says TS for seller initials, and then it says seller. Okay, we always want it to say your client's initials there. That indicates to you that you set it up correctly and that they would be able to electronically sign. Now, if you were to print out this form, okay, that field would be blank. When they actually go to electronically sign it, it will be in cursive with a time and date stamp. Okay, so These print initials right here just indicate to you that you set it up correctly. Now, a cool tip, now I'm not going to go over how to fill in the form, okay? That was done in the Dotloop 101 class, so I want to show you some cool tips and tricks that you can use in here. Okay, specifically in this More tab at the top of your screen. So in the More tab, you'll see the option to host in-person signing. And you don't really need to click on that right now, as it will log you out of your Dotloop account. But what this does, okay, let's say you're on an appointment and you have your laptop or your tablet and you are typing up the form right next to your client. Okay, so you're going over the listing agreement, explaining it to them, filling in the form, and now you're ready for your clients to sign. So instead of having to email the form to them to electronically sign, you can come up to More and then Host in-person signing, and it would then allow you to just pass your tablet or your laptop over to your client to have them electronically sign. Okay, so that is a really cool feature. So make sure to make a note of that. All right. Okay, and again in File over here on the top black toolbar, this is where you can save, print, and download. Okay. So again, I mentioned at the beginning of class that you can use Dotloop to a couple different capacities. So for example, if you just want to type up your form and bring it to your clients to hand sign it so you can explain the form to them, you can absolutely do that. You would come in here, type up the entire form, and come up to File and Print. All right, let's go ahead and click Save on the top right of your screen. So we're just going to click Save. We're not going to do Save and Share for right now. We'll get back to that in just a moment. And let's click back on your top black toolbar. It's kind of hard to see. It's a red arrow pointing back to get you back to your loop. All right, and when you click back, it might ask you if you want to share the document right now. For right now, you can click No. If it asks you if you want to save it, you can click Yes. Now let's talk about staying organized in your loop before we add additional documents to your loop. So these folders right here are hugely helpful to staying organized. So let's take a look at how you would use folders to keep your loop organized and save you some time. So on the far right, again, you'll notice those three drop-down dots that we saw earlier. So let's go ahead and click on those. So the three drop-down dots to the far right of where it says Folder. And let's select Rename from that drop-down. All right, so I'm clicking Rename, and I'm going to change this to Listing Folder. Right when you click on Rename, it'll put the cursor to the left of Folder so you can start typing in right away. Right. You can also highlight to delete the entire thing. Oops. Because if you ever do what I just did, right, I clicked off of it, so it stuck it, right? If that's not what I want, no biggie, I can just come down to the three drop-down dots and click Rename again to edit that. So you can name it whatever you want to name it, okay? In this case, I'm going to show you the way that I prefer. So that's having a listing folder, and to save it, you can either click Enter on your keyboard or just click in the white space on the left-hand side, and that will make it stick. All right, so ideally when you have a listing, you're going to have three main folders. Your listing folder, your sales folder for all your executed documents, and your closing folder, okay, for any closing documents. So to add a new folder, we'll simply click on Add Folder on the top right, okay, in line of where it says Documents. Okay. You'll see it displays New Folder, which I can then highlight New and change that to Sales Folder and click Enter. I'm going to do that one more time for your closing folder. So I'm going to click Add Folder on the top right and change the name of this to Closing Folder. All right, if you separate all of your documents, right, you get a whole lot of documents going on for a transaction. If you do add your folders like this at the very beginning of your loop and add the documents as they come to the specific folder, you're going to make your life so much easier because you're going to be able to easily find your forms, and you're going to make your admin at your office really happy because your loop is organized and they can easily go through things to make sure you're in compliance. Okay, so I can't stress enough how useful these folders can be. Now these folders you can use for different things. All right, you can also have one, let's say, your offer folder instead. Okay, so it's entirely up to you how you want to use these folders. All right. So let's talk about adding more documents, because there are 3 different ways, as you can see. Now, if you want to add it to a specific folder, you would just click Add Document to the far right of that folder name. Okay, so wherever you see these 3 blue boxes under that folder name, that's where it will add it. So we just went over how to add documents from your templates section. Okay, and I know I went over that a little fast, right? But that is reviewed heavily in Dotloop 101, okay? And again, you can watch that video anytime at slmtraining.com. All right, the second option is browsing your computer, okay? So I can see right here, search and add any PDF from your computer into this folder. So when would you use this? So let's say your client has hand-signed the document and you're holding the physical form in your hand, okay, and you need to get it into your loop. What you could do is scan it to your computer, so now the document is saved on your computer. You will then click Browse right here to pull that document into your loop. Okay, it'll search your computer and you can go grab that document to bring it in. So anytime you hand fill in forms or print out blank documents, you can always add them back to your loop by clicking Browse here. Just a heads up, Dotloop does only allow PDFs, okay, which is mostly what you'll have for forms. However, I know sometimes people will take photos of checks, like earnest money check, for example, and you're not able to add that to your loop because it's a picture file. However, if you Google JPEG to PDF converter, okay, there are a bunch of different free converters that you can easily change that picture file or JPEG into a PDF to add it to your loop. Just a tip there. All right, and this last option, email, is particularly cool. I like this option a lot. So, email. So when you would use this, so you can read right here, attach the files you need to an email and send them directly into this folder. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through what this looks like. So what you would do, all right, so here is my email inbox. All right, so let's say the agent on the other side just emailed me the fully executed contract. Okay, so now it's in my email account, and I want to be able to forward this email so that this document appears in my Dotloop. Okay, so let's take a look at that. I know it's a little confusing. So what we would do first. So I want to click on this email option right here. And when I click on that, it will generate a really long, crazy Dotloop email address that is specific to this folder in this loop. Okay. So what you're going to do is click Copy to Clipboard. Okay, that big red button right under this crazy long email address here. So Copy to Clipboard. All right. I will then go back to my email account where I have the offer to purchase that the agent on the other side has emailed to me. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to forward this email. Now if you're using your KW Gmail account, the way that you forward emails is just by clicking this little drop-down arrow on the top right of your email, and you click forward. All right, it will then bring up the email that I can compose. All right, and I'm going to want to right-click to paste in that crazy long Dotloop email address that we just got from our Dotloop account. There it is. Crazy long. All right, so now when I click send, this offer to purchase, which is a PDF in my email, is going to appear in my loop. Now I do want to point out there is some verbiage in this email, right? It says attaches the OTP, the offer to purchase. Okay, Dotloop will ignore any verbiage in the email, in the body of the email, and it will just grab the PDF to add it to your loop. So let's see if that worked. Now, when I go back to my loop here, it won't just automatically display. You do need to refresh your page. And the way that you refresh your page, okay, it's a little different depending on what browser you're using. In Google Chrome, it's on the top left of your browser. It looks like an arrow in a circle. Okay, so that's a universal symbol for refresh, an arrow in a circle. All right, and voila, there it is. Emails, offer to purchase. Okay, so I forwarded that email that I had with the attachment of the PDF, and it goes right into my email account. So that is a super huge time saver that you can start using to easily get documents from your email inbox straight into your loop. Okay, so it cuts out lots of steps. Again, this class will be recorded, so if you want to watch that at a slower pace and see that again, you absolutely can. All right. So now we went over all three options of how to add documents into your loop. Okay, so those are the three main ways right here. All right, so let's talk about editing PDFs. Now, the cool thing about Dotloop is it allows you to edit PDFs, which typically you have to pay for programs to be able to do that. Okay, typically you cannot type on a PDF or just start editing it. So let's take a look at that. So first of all, we need to get a PDF for you to practice with. So if you've been following along, you should have your listing agreement or whatever document you pulled into from the template section. Okay. So that document we were working on first, the listing agreement in this case. Let's go ahead and click on the three drop-down dots on the far right of that listing agreement. Okay, so this is another very cool feature of Dotloop. If you can go down to make a copy. So three drop-down dots to the far right of the document name. And let's go to make a copy. Now, what we are doing is we are converting a Dotloop interactive form, right? Dotloop interactive forms mean you can just start typing in the form. And we're going to convert it to a PDF. Okay, and again, a PDF means that you cannot type in it, right? You can't just erase what's there and start adding things. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and click on the dot that says copy as flat PDF, signatures preserved, not editable. Let me tell you why this feature is so cool. Right? The reason you'll want to use this is if, for example, let's say your listing agreement only has 2 places for your clients to sign, but you have 4 clients that need to sign for it. Okay? Or another example is I have a fully executed offer to purchase. However, I just want to make one little change to that offer to purchase. Okay? In Dotloop, if you have a fully executed offer to purchase and you try and make any changes to it, it will erase all signatures. Okay, so we want to preserve those signatures as we're seeing right here. Signatures preserved, not editable. Okay, so we'll go through the whole process so you can see exactly why this is such a cool feature. So again, make sure that second dot is clicked. The copy is flat PDF, and let's click to loop. All right, since I clicked to loop, it will now pull up all the loops that I have in my account, and I can use the search bar at the top to search for the loop that I'm currently working in. So whatever you named your loop for today's practice, go ahead and search for that. You'll then be able to click the loop from below the search bar, and you'll see different folders display. Okay, so you can click the dot next to whichever folder you want to add it to. Now, for the sake of this not being confusing, let's go ahead and select the sales folder. Okay, any folder besides the listing folder. So I click the sales folder, and I'm going to click copy. Okay. Sorry, so that pop-up told me that it's been imported, it's been converted, and I just clicked OK. All right, so now I can see that exclusive right to sell in this sales folder. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on that. All right, so we copied that interactive document to a PDF. So now you can see that I can't just click to start editing anything. Now, there's a couple of cool features of the PDF editor that Dotloop provides. First of all, if you come up to File on the top black toolbar, it does give you the option to split the document. So for example, if you added a PDF to your loop, you added your whole listing folder all together. Okay, so you have all of your listing documents all together, but you want to be able to separate that into, let's say the residential property disclosure is one form and the exclusive right to sell is another form, right? We don't want them all in one file, okay? You can come up here and split the document and it'll break the PDF up into however many files you want. So you'll notice I can do pages 1 to 4 is document 1, and I could name it whatever I wanted, and so forth. And you can come up here to split the document into up to 10 different documents, right, in your Dotloop account. So that is a very handy feature. All right, so I did that in File and Split Document. All right, another cool one is, let's say I uploaded my PDF into my loop sideways. Okay. So no big deal. You can rotate your document. So if this were sideways, I could come in here and rotate it to make it upright. Okay, please keep in mind you have to do both of these things. Either of these things have to be done before adding fields. Okay. Let's take a look at what I mean by adding fields. All right, so let's go down to a field that we need to be able to type into. So if you see a blank field and you cannot click to start typing, right, because this is a PDF, Dotloop allows you to come up to the Add feature. So Add on the top black toolbar and click Add Text from that drop-down. So I'm on Add and Add Text from that drop-down. All right, you'll notice it starts to follow my mouse, that text field. All right, so I can simply line up where I want that text field to be and go ahead and click to drop it. All right, so this text field it puts in is a little small, right? So you'll notice that if you click on that field, it outlines it in red, showing that it's been selected. And you'll want to hover your mouse over the little right triangle on the bottom right of that text box. You'll notice your mouse turns into a diagonal arrow that will then allow you to click to drag to make that text box bigger. So I can then start typing. All right, so that's how you can add text boxes. Now there's a whole slew of different fields that you can add. So for example, if you need to check off check boxes, okay, you can definitely do that by coming up to Add and going to Add Checkbox. It'll be the same concept here. It will follow your mouse until you click to drop it. Okay, so let's say that you got a little click happy and you laid a bunch of text boxes all around your screen where it shouldn't have gone. No worries, you can easily erase these fields that you add just by simply clicking on the field that you want to erase. This black toolbar will then display that I can click on the red X. It's kind of on the middle of that black toolbar. It's a little hard to see. We'll click on that black X to go ahead and get rid of that. Okay, so where having it as a PDF becomes particularly helpful is, like I said earlier, let's say that you have a fully executed offer to purchase. Right? It's a Dotloop interactive form, so if I'm to make any changes to that document, it would erase all signatures, and we of course do not want that. Okay, so let's take a look at how we would do that. All right, so we use that copy to feature that we just looked at just a moment ago to copy the document as a PDF in your loop. Okay, and that will preserve your signatures. All right, and it now allows you to edit it. So for example, let's say that the client's name is incorrect. All right, if I come up to add, so now I'm going to try and edit this document, and of course I cannot click to just change that information, but I can come up to this add field. All right, and let's go to add strike through. Okay, I want to strike through any error I might have made. So I'm going to cross out the name Tony because he actually goes by Anthony. All right, any of these fields you can resize by hovering your mouse on the edge of it. Right? When your mouse turns into a diagonal arrow, it's a little fickle, you can resize it. A little hard for these strike throughs because they're so skinny. All right, another odd thing that you can do with your mouse in these fields, if you put your mouse on the edge of that field, if it turns into 4 arrows like that, you can click to drag and move that around. All right, so I struck through the mistake that I made that needs to be altered. And I did that by going to Add on the top black toolbar and Add Strike Through. All right, so now we need to initial this change, right? This needs to be initialed by my client. So I can do that by coming up to Add Initials. So I'm on Add on the top black toolbar and Add Initials from that drop-down. All right, so an initial box will start following your mouse, which I can then click to drop it. All right. Now, the important thing when you are adding initial boxes manually like this, right, as I mentioned on the interactive forms, we want to be able to see their initials in print on this field to know that I set it up correctly for them to electronically sign. So there is an extra step that you need to take. All right, where it says initial here, go ahead and click on that field, and you'll notice this red drop-down comes down that says Assign Field. Let's click on that. It will then make this field display that allows you to select your client's name from that list to assign them to that field. So now, as you can see, I have the client's initials in print right here. That indicates to me that I set it up correctly. When sharing the form, that client will be able to electronically sign. That's the most important thing that you need to know for your clients to be able to electronically sign any forms or any initial boxes that you add to the PDF. Okay, so that's a really important feature there. All right. And let's click Save on the top right of your account. Actually, Let's go ahead and click Save and Share and take a look at this. So I click Save and Share on the top right, okay? I made the changes to this document. I click Save and Share on the top right because I need my client to sign that new revision. Okay, so now I can see that my client has one field assigned, right? Just that revision, and they can sign it. Okay, if you click on Can Sign, it does give you the option for other ways to share it, okay? And if you ever forget what one of these does, if you simply hover your mouse over it, it does tell you what that share option does. Okay, just to overview that for you, this view only option right here shares the form, and of course they can only view it, okay? So that's a great tool to use if you're sharing the executed offer to the mortgage provider, or if there's a younger couple that you're representing and the parents want to look over the forms, okay? So that view only field is, share option is a good one to use for that. Most popularly, you'll use the Can Sign, okay? That is typically what you'll use every time is this Can Sign option. All right, and that allows them to sign any fields that you have manually assigned to them. Moving on down, this Can Fill and Sign. So if you are sending a property disclosure for your client to fill in and sign, right? They will need to fill in information about their property that they know, maybe like the age of the roof. And lastly, but typically guys, just a note, the Can Fill and Sign, you really don't want to share like a listing agreement with them as Can Fill and Sign because they can start editing the forms in the field and, you know, change your commission and so forth. So really Can Fill and Sign is best for just property disclosures. And lastly, Can Edit in Private, right? That's good to use to send to the broker on the other side, okay? So if you're sharing an offer to them, they would be able, if you share it as Can Edit in Private, they would be able to create a counter offer to send back to you. Okay, and one of the biggest questions we get is, my client did not receive the form, help. So there is a reshare option on here as well, guys. So right above, right above where you see your client's name and he can sign, you'll see reshare and more options. So you'll see who has access currently, right? So if you can't remember if you already shared the document, this shows you who currently has access. And it will always have your name and the admin in your office. And this is how you can click to reshare the document. Okay. Another cool feature on here, so that's a really great one. Another cool feature from the share screen is this attach PDF to email. Okay, so if I were to click on this, it would send the form to the person on the other side, okay? Send the form to them in a way that they would be able to use Dotloop for free, or they could use the attachment. Okay, so this is particularly useful if you are sharing a form to the agent on the other side who possibly doesn't use Dotloop, and they don't want to learn a whole other system, right? So if you click this attach PDF to email option, it will share it to that agent as a PDF as well as in Dotloop, so that agent can grab the form and use the electronic signature software they use. All right, and then you can click share. All right, and before we wrap up today's class, I just want to show you, oops, let's go ahead and share that actually. I just want to show you one more feature that you need to know about. I'll just take 1 second here. So let's go back to your loop. So let's click on back on the top left, that red arrow that's a little hard to see. And that'll take you back to your loop. Now along the lines with the question that we get, my client did not receive the document, how can I make sure they received it? Okay, so a very cool feature to know about is if I'm looking back at your loop, you'll notice on the top, right below the top black toolbar, it says activity log. So if I click on activity log here, it will show me, well, everything that has been done in this loop, every click, every share. But this top option right here, it says that I shared this document with my client and what the status is, okay? So if that status says that it did not go through or there was an error, it would show you right here. So this is a great place to double check to make sure that that document went through to your client, especially if they're not seeing it in their inbox. All right, and I'm going to click back to loop here on the top left. All right, again, I found that in the activity log, right from the top of your loop. All right, guys, that was the Dotloop 201 class, a little more of the advanced tips, tricks, and time savers. Just a reminder, more of the Dotloop basics and the Dotloop 101 class can be viewed at any time at slmtraining.com. You can also watch this training there, so you can pause it and follow along. Have a good one, guys.